Mic check 1 2 1 2. Des Rocksteady at King of the Pit TV. Less Than Jake, Losing Streak. That's the record we listened to. It was devoted to Carl Miller, who recommended that on the Patreon. So thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. Yeah, 16 tracks. I have heard so much of this record before. I would say I've heard up until track 8. So half of the record, basically, I was familiar with. Not necessarily the second half of the record, alright? So it goes to show what my attention span's like. But I really liked what I heard from this record back in the day. There's a few songs in particular I really adored. Sugar in Your Gas Tank, then and now, is like one of my favourite punk rock songs of all time, because it connects me to a time when I was ever so young, and I heard it on a PS1 soundtrack to whatever it was, Street Skater or whatever it's called on the PS1. It was part of the soundtrack, and it wasn't just me, it was a lot of other people. I could tell by looking at the comment section of that particular song. Absolutely fantastic. The sound of this record is really good, very 90s. Very 90s. The production isn't fantastic, but that doesn't matter. The production is good. Like, it suits the sound, and it suits the it just suits the energy of the band, in my personal opinion. Does it need a remaster? It'd sound pretty cool. It'd sound pretty cool to have a remaster, don't get me wrong. I would listen to a remaster, I wouldn't turn it down. But I don't think it's like necessary. The drums don't get given a whole, oomph. They don't get given much love on the production, but it doesn't make a difference. Sometimes the bass line could have a little more pop and presence, because we do know that bass line's going wild throughout the record. Of course it is, but we can't really pay too much attention to it for the most part. The mid of the record tends to take the full focus. We've got the vocals, we got the guitars, and we got the brass section that sort of takes up most of what you're hearing, or at least through my headphones that's the case. So yeah, really good. I enjoyed my experience listening to this record. Was there any letdown? Not necessarily. It all retained a good standard. It was high octane. If you didn't like one song, it didn't matter, because it'd be over and done with within 2 minutes. So, it's one of them records where if you do like the sound, if there's a bad song or two you don't really feel too much correlation with, if you don't like the melodic value or so forth, or you don't like the tempo or this, that, and the third, it doesn't really matter, because it's over and done with. It's over and done with. I liked it. Great instrumentation, tight ska, third wave punk playing. I would argue that the best part of this record was the brass section. The brass section is there with purpose and with consistency. They've not just been brought in for a couple of tidbits for the sake of it. This brass section is just pumping out the infectious melodies all over this record, all over these songs, and that's brilliant. The brass is in competition with the vocal line for the top spot as far as the sound is concerned. With that being said, I would rate this record. I'm gonna be very biased, but it's all bias. Every album I listen to, every review I give is bias, because it's through my ear and my past as far as my relationship with this record and this music and this sound goes. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give it an 8 out of 10, respectfully. Why wouldn't I give it a 9 or an 8.5? Well, that's because at this point in my life, I don't have much intention on returning back to this record unless I'm feeling nostalgic and might have had a couple to drink and just want some high octane, high energy music to listen to, just feel good, feel reminiscent. I'm only giving the high ratings to them albums that I'm thinking, wow, I need to get back and listen to this in my spare time. This album I've listened to enough, or at least the bits and bobs I've listened to enough. The new stuff, the new material, fantastic, great moments. And that's what I'm going to say. I'll leave it on that one. That was Less Than Jake, Losing Streak. One love, people.